After not being the slightest bit interested, I finally got around to watching Elio, and I find myself agreeing with the internet on this one. Didn't want to watch it, but was very, very pleasantly surprised. I thoroughly enjoyed my entirety of the time that I've had watching this movie. Today we're going to be breaking down Elio, talking about the things that I like, if there's anything that I didn't like, which this is going to be mostly positive because I thought the story was very fun. We're going to get into it in just a second. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with too many YouTube channels. So, again, I didn't want to watch this movie at all, okay? I had a very, very early fight day. For those of you who aren't coming from other channels, I am a massive, massive MMA fan. So, as somebody who spends his Saturdays watching violence, they were over in Germany this time around. So, it all worked out with the time where I actually spent a Saturday night with my wife, where the fights ended early. She came, hung out with my family. We got home, and then we're like, what do you want to do? It's like 6 p.m. So, she wanted to watch this movie, Elio, because she heard a lot about it. And I heard a little bit about it too. I heard that people, it was something along the lines of people not being interested when it was out in the theaters and it not getting the promotion that it deserved, okay? Regardless, I wasn't that interested. I'm kind of on the internet side in like, I'm tired of the freak show storyline where it's like, oh my god, it's this kid, and he's such an outcast, but he's going to have like the coolest story in the world. I'm kind of tired of that, to be honest with you, and excuse me if you can hear my notification, but hey, I sat down, I watched it. Pixar usually does a good job, and they did a really, really good job this time around. So, getting into the actual story for it, we learn that there's this little kid named Elio. I didn't know that he was going to grow up throughout the movie, but he was like a very, very, very little kid. He's socially awkward. His parents just died. And now circling back, okay, when I said freak show, the fact that his parents died, I'm not like clowning on any of that, okay? But you get what I'm talking about when it's like the losers of the world. It makes me think of like Ron's Gone Wrong, you know? The kid that nobody likes. You know, but he's just like socially awkward. You know what I'm talking about, okay? I'm not clowning on this kid for his parents being dead. That's an obviously tragic thing to happen, and that would make a kid behave oddly. His aunt ends up adopting him, giving up on her dreams. She wanted to be an astronaut, but she's working with the military now. And long story short, she's watching him. Elio wanders into like a space museum that's being built or something. He just gets fascinated by it and has this dream of being abducted by aliens and meeting people from outer space. It's a very innocent storyline. It's one of those things where it's obviously like just exaggerated. Now, I do believe that there are other people out there in the universe with us, but for some kid to wander around being like, aliens, please take me. You know what I'm talking about. It's one of those storylines where it's like a kid's interested in space. They over-exaggerate it, but they did it in the best way possible. And if you turn off your like reasoning part of your brain and just enjoy the movie for what the movie is, then you will have a great time with it. But then again, why are you watching this video if you haven't watched the movie? Because I'm just giving you all of the spoilers right now. So, he's interested in space. Years later, he grows up. He wants to be abducted by aliens because he's sick of his life. He just builds a bunch of antennas. He just lies on the beach every day. He's skipping school, and he has like written in the sand, aliens please abduct me, but he's not letting anybody walk on the beach. You know what I mean? He just turned into just the ultimate weird kid. So what we don't know at this point is that Elio has been posting flyers everywhere about like this club, but he is not prepared to have any sort of interaction whatsoever. So I don't know. These two kids end up coming along, one really cool one, and then I guess you could call him the bully of the show. I don't know, but he was just a little bit of a D-bag. He brought a ham radio and he was trying to make communications with outer space. Found something strange going on because it turns out there are actually aliens in space, but he ended up just saying, oh my god, let me listen to that, and it just ended up causing some chaos, but then they just ended up fighting each other, okay? The mom ended up figuring it out. She has to discipline him. She's all upset. She's at home, but I could be remembering this a little bit out of order. Elio overhears her talking about like, you know, this isn't exactly how I wanted my life to go. I'm going to bring him to camp. But I think before that, she ends up bringing him over to work, where this is where the movie kind of takes off. And there's a conspiracy theorist, the crazy guy who made contact with outer space. And just as you would probably in real life, they would just say, oh my god, you're crazy. You're on your pills. Take some time off. Elio sees it, though, because he already had the entire thing. Like, hey, just send their message back. They figured out our language. So Elio says, hey, I'll be waiting. Please abduct me. I love you. And then gets in further trouble for that. He's going to get sent to camp. He does get sent to camp. The other two kids were in camp as well because they end up getting a fight with Elio. And I will say, it was the blonde kid's fault. He started all the fights. So why he's like, oh my god, you're dead. You're dead. You're dead. And she's like doing the fake wave to her parents. Oh my God, we're going to kill you. You know, that type of thing. And my wave just turned off my camera tracking. Excuse me there. Sorry about that, everybody. But so he's about to get beat up at night. The one kid doesn't want to beat him up, but they're all about to beat him up. Like, hey, freak show. He's running away. And my wife and I actually laughed out loud at a part like this, but we're going to get into it in just a second. Elio ends up actually getting abducted because he's welcomed into the communiverse where all the different species of life, they figure out a thing. There was a little blue thing that ended up giving them an orb so they could all understand each other. All the languages were understood by one another, so they were all just like speaking English. They need us to understand what's going on in the movie. So he gets welcomed into the communiverse, kind of. He's exploring. He's having fun. It's everything that he dreamed of. He has this little thing where he can turn gravity on and off. He's just like, oh my God, this is so much better than my regular life, because Elio, of course, was really upset, especially after hearing his aunt's words. He was in camp. He was about to get beat up. So he wants to stick around. But then he learns they mistook him for the leader of Earth. Or I don't remember what they called him, King of Earth, leader of Earth, whatever it was. He was Earth's ambassador. So again, this is where you have to like turn off your kind of understanding for it, because they found that spacecraft that was sent out in the 70s or whenever they said it was, and they're like, oh, we got your message and we wanted to pick you up. So they thought that he built it, but before he can actually have a trial to be welcomed, we are introduced to the main antagonist of the series, that being Lord Grygon, who is a warlord who wants to see people bleed. He wants to take people over. He ends up coming around, and we learn that every single time that the communiverse is faced with a threat, they end up just running away, relocating, which is very inconvenient for them. But it didn't honestly seem like it was that inconvenient, because they just transport the entirety of the thing to somewhere else. But anyways, he wanted to be part of the communiverse because he was, I guess, one of the best leaders. He understood that this is where the best leaders come about, and they didn't care for him. So they're panicking. They're about to, ship away to wherever they were going to go into space. And then Elio says, hey, I'll reason with this guy. I'll take care of him. And he has to start fitting into the role as ambassador of Earth. Everybody in the communiverse, as intelligent as they are, they're the most gullible people in the world. So like, you'll talk to Lord Grygon for us? You'll negotiate with him? And he's like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll do that. So everybody's like, oh, that's great. We'll welcome you into the communiverse immediately if you can figure things out. So Elio's freaking out. And because he's going to be gone longer, this is where they end up creating a clone. And I don't usually laugh out loud at movies, guys. My wife and I actually laughed out loud at this, where the clone is like happy to take part in Elio's life. So he's like, hey, is there anything I need to know? He goes, yeah, just don't be weird. So he goes in, time's frozen. He starts sticking his fingers to where he's about to go, or sticking his arms through. And he's like, all right, thanks for being here. The dude's about to like actually take a beating from the other kids, which was hilarious. Didn't know any better. And Elio's like, all right, let's keep doing our thing. I like that. And I actually wish that we could have seen a little bit more of the clone, because there's another part, I don't know, I'm just going to talk about it now. There's another part where the aunt is trying to like, have a relationship with the clone, but we learn later that she was onto it the entire time. He's like trimming hedges and just like snips off his finger like right outside the window, but they don't see him. And he's like, oh, oops, just puts it back on. I wish we could have seen more stories like that, because honestly, that was by far the funniest part of the movie to me, was whenever we were watching the clone do stuff. So we see a little bit of the clone actually, and it seemed like he had the aunt fooled. And they got into this whole thing later on in the movie where it's like a father always knows, a mother always knows when my kid isn't here. But how could you know? I looked at my wife when I was watching this series and I was like, how would you know if I was a clone? How could you even know? Which you couldn't. You couldn't possibly, because she said, I'd wear shoes in the house, which could have two meanings, of course, right? But the one that she was talking about was, I am a major germaphobe, so I don't want people wearing their actual shoes in my house. That could be taken both ways, but I'm like, but wouldn't my clone know that? There's no way that you could possibly tell. There's no way. But I guess like they got into the thing the father always knows. That was like a little bit of a message down the road, which it was nice, to be honest with you. But anyways, the clone goes, yeah, I thought I'd just drop the whole alien thing. Then they end up bonding a little bit, but it turns out that it was a fake bond because the aunt was onto him. But now we start heading towards not quite the climax of the movie yet, but we're getting there, okay? This is where Elio ends up meeting Grygon, his son, Glorden. He ends up having a quick negotiation, which doesn't go well with Grygon. He gets through him just a little bit, but accidentally ends up calling him a bad parent, which This dude, he has a major temper. He liked killing things. He's like, let's discuss by hearing screams. And Elio accidentally shot a gun, which is pretty fun. But long story short, the conversation didn't go too well. He was kept as a prisoner, but he finds a way out because, of course, there is a way out of the prison cell. He finds his son, Glorden, and Glorden is a very, very innocent kid, just like Elio. They end up bonding together like crazy after being, I guess you could call it like just kids together. Glorden was a little bit annoying. I guess Elio would be annoying to everybody else too. So my point being, they bonded. Glorden doesn't want to be a warlord, which he's about to be a warlord, and they all have to get trapped into this giant suit, which is very painful because there's like spikes in there and it just like impales you, and then you like never take that suit off ever. So Glorden and Grigon are slugs, but have like really cool war suits. Glorden doesn't want to be part of any of that, and he just agrees to be a bargaining chip with Elio. He's like, hey, I need to ask you for a favor. They escape. They make Glorden end up, or sorry, I'm messing up the names. Grigon. They make Grigon swear on his honor that he'll leave and never return if he can get his son without harm. Now, I thought because they said that, he's like, I swear if there's one little hair on him that's injured, you will feel my wrath, or whatever he said, right? I was expecting to them as they played, because following that, they had this like play sequence where they were just going around, they were having fun, they were bonding. I thought he was going to like trip and fall or something. And then Grigon was going to go crazy. But we just learned that Glorden doesn't want to do what his dad does. He doesn't want to be a warlord. He doesn't want to get into that suit because he'll never be able to take it off and he'll never be able to play again. So they have the idea to have the clone. And this is the thing again. This is the thing again, because the clone gets sent back to Grigon. Everybody's like, yay. And while like Glorden's actually hiding, the clone gets into the machine, and the machine just has all these spikes going like right into their body, just impales them completely. Like, I wish we could have seen more with the clones like that, where they're happy to do something and they don't know that they're about to face a bunch of pain. But Grigon figures that out pretty quickly. All of a sudden, the clone's shot dead, and he's like, where's my son? He turns into ultimate warlord mode. He makes the mind reading lady read Elio's mind, where she figures out that he's actually just a child. They're like, hey, you've done enough. Get out of here while everybody's suffering. They just ship him back to Earth in that same spot, which I was thinking too. What if they just like shipped him back to Earth? Because thankfully, they just put him back where he came from. Could you imagine it's just like, okay, back to Earth, and like it's probably going to have him land in water? Could you imagine something like that? That's what I was thinking about that whole time. But anyways, he gets sent back to Earth. Glorden, and this is where we kind of saw it coming, how he's going to get back to the Communiverse. Glorden accidentally ended up activating the spaceship. It's set to Earth. They go to Earth. So there's a crash landing there. The military's on it, but at the same time, Elio gets put back on the beach where his mother is, or excuse me, his aunt is writing in the same kind of things like, aliens, please return him, because she figured out, and we had a little bit of a scene figuring that out. And I thought it was weird. Like, again, how could you possibly know? How could you possibly know that that's not your kid? It's a clone. Either way, unless you like, because she figured it out ultimately by lifting up the eye patch and there was nothing under it. So we had a little bit of a heartfelt moment where he was devastated, but it turns out his aunt actually wanted him, but he was a little bit misunderstood, or he misunderstood what she wanted because he overheard her saying, like, I didn't want this to be the way my life went, and things like that. But they make up, they can find each other, it's very nice, and they have to find Glorden because they figure out that the spaceship's down there. This is where there's honestly not too much to break down, because they find him. They get into the spaceship because Elio can activate it after having the clone do a funny thing too. Again, I wish we could have seen more of the clones. They end up taking the ship out into space. Obviously, it's going to work out. These two aren't going to die into space, but Glorden he's dying because he's too cold and his thing broke that, fixes his temperature. They have a really cool moment where they call down to the bullies, or not the bully, like the one kid that was a bully but didn't want to be a bully, and the conspiracy theorist. They all help them, get through the debris field just to get into hyperspeed. And again, I wish I could break a little bit more about this down, but there's really nothing that we could break it down about it. They get back up. He delivers Glorden to his father, and the father, after making so much about like his honor, and you never take out the honor because it would dishonor your family, he sees his son dying. He rips the armor and swaddles him. And it was a very wholesome, it was a very fun scene where the kid realizes that his father always loves him, just like Elio just realized that his aunt always loves him. Swaddles him, and he's like, sorry, I don't have the same touch that your mother has. And this is something that, again, Elio and Glorden ended up bonding over, because the mom was gone, the dad was a warlord, and Elio's were just dead. Like, they ended up bonding over that, but he ended up seeing that his father loved him with all of his heart, and Elio's like, confess to your father. And like, Gordon's like, I don't want to be a warlord. Which, like, it's funny in the grand scheme of things because, like, this little kid's being like, I don't want to see my enemies sit down and bleed, you know, stuff like that. And he's like, I know, a father always knows his son. And Grigon ended up apologizing. It all worked out. All of the troops are down. He's just happy that his son's saved. He's out of the warlord machine. The Communiverse is okay. They welcome Elio. Elio starts cheering, but he recognizes that he wants to give life with his aunt a try. I don't know why he's just like, yeah, no thanks, Communiverse. I'm good. I'm going to go back to Earth where everything just goes to crap all the time. Don't get me wrong. Nothing could pull me away. Like, if it was just my aunt and I, nothing could pull me away, okay? Well, I'm staying with my family. That's what I'm doing. I'm staying here on Earth. I'm staying with my family. But why not just give me, like, I want to go home with that translator thing that you had and the anti-gravity thing. I want to go home with that and be like, hey, can I just come anytime? Or can I be ambassador from Earth? I think that would be pretty cool. Why not make a deal like that? But he ends up leaving them all. They all understand it's a very wholesome moment. He ends up giving his aunt a big, big, big hug. They kind of go home. He gives life a try like he wanted to. And he's developing a relationship with his aunt. And the movie kind of concludes with him and his friends talking to Gordon. So they still do have the connection, or he still has his friend over in space. But I don't understand why he couldn't take some sort of technology back down to Earth. It was a very wholesome movie. And again, I know that it was pretty quick to break down the end of the movie there. But I was entertained from start to finish throughout this movie. I thought it was great. And as much as I didn't want to watch it, I'm glad that I did. It was a very, very, very good Pixar movie, and they typically do a good job, honestly. And I enjoyed this whole thing. I doubt that there's going to be a second movie, especially because this thing didn't make any money, apparently. So I guess we're going to leave it as is. Maybe we can do a tier list ranking the characters. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Why don't you check out our Inside Out reaction and breakdown right here? I'd love to have you over there. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, guys.